Hello guys, welcome to Omocha Reviews. Jay here, and today we're going to finally review the HMM Iron Kong Yeti by Kotobukiya. So for those unaware, this is a new kit released this year, 2020, and the Iron Kong Yeti, however, is the fourth iteration of the Iron Kong model kits by Kotobukiya. So this being the fourth, the first three were the Iron Kong standard version, that's the black and white one, and then you had the Iron Kong Schwartz version, basically the character pilot is included there with a different weapon system, and then you had the Iron Kong PK meaning pros and knights, so that was the red Iron Kong. And now we have the Iron Kong Yeti, which is under the Yuji Kaida exclusives. Basically, it's a different interpretation of a Zoid by famous Japanese illustrator Yuji Kaida. Now, for most, I would want to compare the color scheme of the Yeti with the Liger Zero. So I want to compare the whiteness of the Liger Zero, and as you can see right here, the Liger Zero is significantly more on the yellowish white compared to the Yeti, which is more on the bluish white. Actually, the Yeti's whiteness reminds me of the PlayStation 5 because it's more on that minty, cool hue. So which I really like because this is supposed to be an abominable snowman or, a Yeti basically. Next over here is a size comparison with the Berserk Fury. So the Berserk Fury is one of the bigger model kits out there. Of course, this is not a Gojulus, but it is one of those standard bigger ones. And as you can see, the Iron Kong Yeti is significantly bulkier and bigger compared to the Berserk Fury, especially if you take into account that the Berserk Fury's buster claws are spread wide open. Again, for those unaware, the Iron Kong Yeti, or the Iron Kong in general, is actually the second largest HMM kit after the HMM Gojulus. Now over here, speaking of Gojulus, this is the Godzilla model kit of the Wild Zero series. So this is the Zero Grises by Takaratomi, the motorized one of course. And as you can see, it's a little taller compared to the Iron Kong, which is actually fine because this is supposed to be a very very massive kit for the Takaratomi line. And you can just see how well the Iron Kong stacks up with the size of the Zero Grises. And then lastly, I want to show you guys here an ape-to-ape comparison. So this is the Deadly Kong from Zoids Genesis by Takaratomi. Obviously, the Deadly Kong is a motorized kit, but as you can see, the scaling is just right. They're both gorillas and they both have the same sort of inspiration and design. The Iron Kong has the weapon system of guns there, while the Deadly Kong has the backpack that shows the extra arms and the blades. And as you can see, they're right out there, or they're right up there in terms of accuracy, in terms of the size, because they're both gorillas. So really, really accurate. You won't have any problems with how nice the size is and how accurate the size is of the Iron Kong Yeti. Now let's talk about the kit. And if you can see right here, the Yeti can be actually divided into two segments. So the weapon system is one, and then the gorilla or the Yeti itself being the other. Now I want to first talk about the weapon system because this is what makes each Iron Kong unique. But before that, I want to point out that there's actually a missing part here. I think I forgot to attach some silver plates here. So these are just minor parts that won't affect the review, but just putting that out. Anyways, I want to talk about the weapon system, and I'm showing the backside of the Yeti here because I want you guys to see how massive the weapon systems is. As you can see, there are some huge boosters here, and then there's also the cockpit here. This is the secondary cockpit, of course the main one being on the head of the Yeti. And as you can see, it is just really massive, and it almost feels like it's so heavy for the Yeti to carry such a huge weapon system. Now, speaking of weapon system, let's first talk about the guns. As you can see, there are two guns attached here, and if you saw the promotional posters or the marketing materials of the Iron Kong, it's only showing the beam cannon on the right side. It never showed the Gatling gun here on the left side. Now I want to talk about the Gatling gun. This is actually meant to be an alternative option for you to attach to the Yeti. The Yeti is as advertised as a Zoid that only carries one gun, so either the Gatling gun or the beam cannon, but you can attach them both at the same time. Now as you can see right here, this is the ammo belt that's attached to the Gatling gun of the Iron Kong Yeti. Now basically what this is, you can actually insert or attach it to the gun to make it seem like it's really connected there. But the rubber, this is actually made of rubber I think. The rubber here is really really fragile, and if I do that, it actually puts a lot of stress, which is why for now I leave this dangling like that by itself. Now let's talk about the beam cannon. So for those unaware, the Gatling gun actually comes from the Schwartz version. this beam cannon right here is actually the first unique weapon of the Yeti. So you won't get this gun in the PK version or in the Schwartz version. This is entirely unique to the Yeti. And what's cool about this beam gun right here is that if you can see, it actually has a magazine of some sort, and then you have a missile loaded here, or a bullet, whatever you want to call it. And then it's really just cool how you can load up the gun and actually see the bullet inside there. So very cool. Now next up is this gun right here. So this is actually a gun that you attach to the arm of the Iron Kong Yeti. Now the manual of the Iron Kong Yeti doesn't tell you how to build this basically. And I just found out about this myself because there are so many extra parts in the runners. So as you can see, there's a closed off section here on the other arm of the Yeti, and there's an open one right here. I've always wondered what the hell is this hole for, and then that's when I realized that you basically connect this gun right here through that hole, as you can see right here. Now this gun came from the Iron Kong PK kit, and that's why, you know, Kotobukiya tends to recycle a lot of the runners from previous kits. So basically this got included in the Yeti, but the manual doesn't tell you how. So in the PK, this actually has an ammo belt running all over the Yeti's torso, which makes it really cool. But for the Iron Kong Yeti, it doesn't have that and only has the guns. Now speaking of that, as you can see right here, this is the hole up close, and basically this is comprised of two parts. And if you were to include this gun and attach it to that hole, you have to really glue those two parts together so they won't fall apart whenever you're adjusting the arm gun. Now, if you're wondering where to attach these guns right here, these guns that are not part of the Iron Kong Yeti's manual, I'm gonna leave a link in the description on where you can consult and find out the instructions on where to attach these guns. And among these are also these two large missiles that I'm pointing at that are attached onto the back of the Yeti. So these are also not part of the manual of the Iron Kong Yeti, because these guns right here, or these missiles, are actually part of the PK version again. So they just got included in the runners, which you still can install to the Iron Kong Yeti. Lastly, this is the last gun that nobody tells you how to build. This gun right here is from the Schwartz version. So this is actually an incomplete gun, but you can still create the main body of the guns, and you can actually connect this to give more loadout to your Iron Kong. So as you can see, there are like two holes right there. So you can connect it to either hole, either the one right next to the Gatling gun or the one a little under it. So I choose to put it under just to give it, you know, just my own personal preference. Now again, these things are not instructed in the manual of the Iron Kong Yeti, so it's important that you guys check out the manual of the other Zoids kits, being the PK and the Iron Kong Schwartz version, and I'm gonna leave a link in the description for that. Other than that, you can also move these guys as well. So these are the sort of extra boosters that sort of look like wings in the Iron Kong Yeti. So as you can see, you can move them in several ways in multiple directions, forward or even sideways. Very cool. So now I'm done discussing about the weapon system and how much you can maximize the weapon system of the Iron Kong. Let's now talk about the main body, the main frame. So as you can see, there are some shoulder cannons right here, or I guess you can call them shoulder missile pods. So really cool that you don't have to paint the missiles themselves. That's a separate silver plastic or silver part that you actually attach inside. So really cool. And then obviously, as you can see, there are two parts right here. One has a clear part, the other has not. You can actually build the Iron Kong to have two of the same plain green part, but why would you do that? Because, you know, the clear part on the right side is really cool. Other than that, you also have this opening section right here. Basically, the armor can open up right like that. And then I would like to show you guys here the interior of the Iron Kong, which in my opinion is one of the best parts about the Iron Kong Yeti. Now, you won't be seeing a lot of the parts inside here, obviously, but this part right here is the Zoid core, and then as you can see, there's a sort of a rib cage effect here. And now, you won't see this when you display it, but when you build this thing, it is absolutely a delight to build. Simply because you actually feel like you're creating an engineering masterpiece, you know? It's like you're creating an ape in a robot form. You can actually tell that they put a lot of thought and innovation to the Iron Kong Yeti's body. And lastly, you have this sort of part right here. This is one of the few weaknesses of the Iron Kong Yeti. There's basically a polycap there that attaches to that peg, but because it's made out of rubber, it really it falls apart really quite easily. So I tend to just remove this part since it's not obviously seen whenever I'm handling the Iron Kong Yeti. So you might as well just glue that part just to keep it secured. Now, for the next part of the video, I'm gonna show a bit of the articulation now. I'm gonna start with the head. So the head has a cockpit that opens up, very standard, and then you can also sort of adjust the head in a way that it can look on the side, can look in front. You can also adjust the head to go forward or to move backward. Ultimately, though, the head has some limited articulation if you compare it to the Ligers. Now for the body, as you can see, the body here rotates like that. There isn't a lot to do with the body. The body is separated into two parts, the front and the hind part. And then you also have here the feet. So the feet have sort of a motion as well. And then the toes actually articulate separately. So that's really cool, though you won't be really doing much about these things unless you're going to pose the Yeti standing on its own 2 feet, which actually is possible, and I've already tried doing so. Now, for the next part, I'm gonna talk about the arms now. So the arms is a sort of a hit or miss right here. As you can see, the arms are divided into 3 segments. So there's the hand, there's the forearm, and then there's the main arm. Now, actually, the arms are not attached to the shoulder, as you can see right here. The shoulder is connected to the torso and not onto the arm. And then over here, as you can see, I took out the arm, and I just want to show you guys how it works. So basically, there's a polycap there, and then you basically insert this inside the shoulder. The shoulder is basically hollow, so you just insert this here, and it covers this part of the polycap right here. And then the rest of it is most of the standard stuff. You get the forearm, and then the hands, and the main arm in general, having 3 joints. And then the coolest part about the hands is that you actually can articulate the Yeti to have this sort of movement for its fingers, where its fingers have 3 joints, and you can actually articulate this like a human finger. So it's really cool. And if you guys are wondering if you can do a middle finger with the Yeti or a peace sign, depending on how good or naughty you are, you can actually do that. So as you can see, you can also rotate the arms 360, giving this a lot of funny and also interesting articulations and poses to do with those fingers. And then also, as you can see, you can adjust the arms and the shoulder rotates as well. Now just be careful, because the thumb part of the Yeti can come off pretty easily. It's kind of flimsy, so just be careful, especially that thumb part is very small. So that completes my review of the Iron Kong Yeti. Now, what are my final thoughts about this kit? Would I recommend it or not? That really depends on what you're looking for in the Iron Kong. Again, there are 4 varieties of the Iron Kong to date. If you want a more classic design, then the first edition Iron Kong and the Schwartz version will be better. However, keep in mind that these kits are currently discontinued and thus rare, which makes them pricier as well. If you can't find these 2 kits and you're not a fan of the Yeti, then the next option would be the Iron Kong PK, which will be reissued next year. This is basically a red Iron Kong that has way more ammunition belts attached to its body. But if you're like me, who's a big fan of the Abominable Snowman or Yetis in particular, then this kit is perfect for you. Also note that currently the Yeti has way more guns compared to the rest. This is because Kotobukiya recycles runners from the same Zoids line over and over again, and because this is the newest Iron Kong, it gets the benefit of having the most number of weapons because it takes it from the Iron Kong Schwartz and the PK, but not all guns. Also, I'm not your financial advisor, but this kit is expensive. It's around $180 to $200, and it can reach higher than that depending where you are. Make sure if you're buying this, you actually want it and it won't affect your finances. Because at the end of the day, this thing is just a hunk of plastic and it won't feed or shelter you. Anyways, that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit like and subscribe to Omocha Reviews. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.